Liv, I am so excited to welcome you today to the Divine Union podcast.
Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
Let's just dive right in. Talk to me about your journey to, given the work that you do in bringing folks into deeper alignment. Yeah, across their life, their home, their habits, their relationship, their business, their mindset. I'm so curious to hear about your own journey into coming into alignment, how that unfolded for you.
Yes, and the one of the reasons why alignment is such a umbrella for all the work that I do is really because I've lived it. I've lived the process of getting my life
Mhm.
into alignment, and when I can trace back to where that started for me, I would probably trace it back around 7 years ago. And when I look at my life then, 7 years ago, compared to now, it's completely different. And that's because of these big shifts that have happened. So, just to kind of take you back to what was happening 7 years ago, I was living in a city, I was working at a fast paced, high demanding job, very fast paced city life. I was I was in a relationship that I really wasn't fulfilled in, that I was sort of going through the motions with. My health and my habits looked drastically different. I was obviously a lot younger, but I was just not conscious of a lot of what I was doing to my body physically, and just living in a state of go, 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 and stress and not sleeping well. And everything sort of changed when I decided and made a big shift, which was, I think, my first alignment shift, which was deciding to leave my job and move back home to where I grew up, which is on Guam, which is now where I'm based. Those two big shifts of what I do with most of my life, most of my day, as well as the location of where I live, were huge, huge alignment decisions for me. Along with that, I left a 6-year relationship. I ended
Um,
up, meeting my now husband through one of the moves that I did make, and I decided to become an entrepreneur. So everything changed in a very short amount of time, but it was almost like a domino effect. It's like once I made that decision of like, I feel stuck. This is not the life that I planned. And I know that there's like a bigger calling behind this. Once I decided to really listen to like, there's something more, there's something more, there's something more, it became this big domino of like, okay, change the job,
yeah.
change the relationship, change the location. Like, and it didn't feel like I have to burn everything to the ground energy. It very much felt like I'm listening, right? I'm listening. This feels and like I'm connecting to my intuition for one of the first times in my life. And so I really started to listen to that pull. And that led me here to Guam. That led me to my husband. That led me to my business. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's been a such a empowering journey of falling into alignment. And now it's something that I teach and I share and I help other people do the same.
Yeah. I love this topic so much because, yeah, it resonates for me when I think about, my time living in New York, working in tech in a job that didn't fulfill me. And I love that you're inviting everyone listening. It's about listening. It's listening to that, like that little voice, that pull, like, "Ooh, am I fulfilled? Is this in alignment?" And yeah, I was thinking about as you were speaking, like, how did I think about it? Like, it was just this almost this energetic wind of just everything's shifting, leaving the job, leaving the relationship, new friends. I'm going to go here and I'm going to do what fills me up. And I'm curious your thoughts on this because I feel that many folks who are looking to come into deeper alignment. Well, actually, first, before I go there, how does one? Yeah, because many people listening might be like, how do I know if I'm in alignment? Like, what are signs that you
Yeah, so
noticed?
there's definitely some signs. And, one of the things I will say is that because the word alignment is thrown around a lot, right? Similar to like manifestation these days, right? It's like getting to alignment, getting to alignment. So one thing that I love about the work with alignment, there are signs that you can look for, which I'll share, but there is going to be a big piece of it that is really individual. That's based off how that person feels as well as their life experience. But I will say a couple of the things, if I were to look at signs that you're in and signs signs that you're in alignment, signs that you're not in alignment. And sometimes the signs that you're not in alignment are a little bit more telling or a little bit louder than the other ones. But one of the first things I always, look at with myself and also with my clients is, are their actions matching up with what they say that they want to do? So if you say that health is your number one goal right now, if you say that, you're wanting to change your relationship, but are your actions actually matching up? And one of the things I even have my clients do is I tell them, like, let's set your goals for the next, 2 months together. And then let's look at your calendar and let's see, like, does your calendar match the goals that you have, right? Is this the calendar of your higher self, pretty much? Is this aligned to the person that you're trying to become? And really looking at, like, is it matching up, right? Like, am I actually
Yeah.
doing what I say that I want to do? Because a
I
lot of
love
people
this.
can talk about that for years.
Yes, you're like, welcome to embodiment, baby. I love that you're really gut checking folks on this piece of like, am I embodying what I want?
Yes, that's definitely a huge one. The other one that oftentimes uh, is kind of that louder sign of, like, are they actually, feeling out of alignment, is looking at energy givers and energy drainers, right? What are the things that are really draining your energy? Those are typically going to be your keys to look at of, is this in alignment, and potentially why is it driving my energy? I've even had people do a really basic exercise of drawing a circle. Everything that's in the circle feels in alignment. Everything that's out of the circle feels out of alignment. Don't overthink it. Just what's in the circle and what's out of the circle. And for some people is like, oh, like, just looking at the themes, right? Like, why are all these people outside the circle? Why is there only one thing in the circle, right? Even just kind of getting that view of, like, what feels good and in flow and connected in my life, and what feels like it's floating outside, right? And those are the keys to look at.
I love this so much. And I want to even like go a little bit deeper here so we can really make it tangible for everyone listening. Like, what would that like, let's give some examples for that. Like what comes for me when I think about my alignment and shifts with the people in my life. It's like when you say energy givers versus energy takers, it's okay, ooh, this relationship is requiring a lot of my energy. I notice I'm feeling exhausted here and I'm burned out, or I'm avoiding this person. I don't want to relate, or I'm angry around this person. That's a negative sign. Like, are there any other, when you think about the things that folks put in and out of the circle, more
Yeah.
examples around some of these?
Yes, definitely. And one comes to mind, especially, with a lot of the work I do around relationships, is I remember there was one retreat that I hosted, and I did this exercise at the start. And one of the guests was a mom of two. And when we were sharing, she basically said, one of my kids is in the circle and one of my kids is outside of the circle. And that was like a big aha moment for her, that she was really feeling disconnected and just having a lot of tension and just not really understanding one of her kids. And that realization to her was like, okay, I need to figure out, how do I bring that kid into the circle, right? And that's a big thing to even admit and to share, right, in a small group. And so I see that a lot with especially when we talk about relationships in the program, is like, there's certain relationships that feel out of alignment, and rather than just saying, they're out, like, they're out of alignment, I gotta go, those are like, how do we look deeper into those, right? How do we start to understand why? And even just noticing if everything outside of your alignment circle all has a theme, right? Is it all work related? I've had a lot of people have, like, everything out is work and everything in is like family, or vice versa, right? Everything out is family, everything in is work. So it's, the exercise itself is helping you define, but also look for patterns of, like, where do I need to have a deeper look in my life? And the third piece I would say that is both on the what to look for and what not to look for is really tuning into, like you said, you mentioned that gut check word a little bit earlier, but there is this deeper feeling, and that is connecting to your intuition, that's connecting to your internal sort of wisdom. When something is out of alignment, it feels off. and only you can really determine like what that feeling is. But if you've ever had to make a big decision where you feel in your whole body like, yes, I've got to go, right? Or no, I can't do this anymore. It's that full body knowing. And a lot of people feel this when they're moving to a new place. They're like, I have to move to this place, right? Like, I don't know what it is, but like, I've got to go to Bali. I've got to go to whatever it might be. So there's that full body knowing that can really guide you into like what feels in alignment. And then on the other side, it's like everyone has experience with something feeling off with a person, a relationship, like something just does not, this feels like there's friction, and it doesn't feel like it's supporting you. And so really tuning in to like those feelings, and those are really internal, right? You're gonna know what it feels like when you get the full body call to go somewhere, and when something's like, I can't stay any longer. So I don't know, I'm sure you've experienced this in your life as well. Like, yeah, those big pulls from that are internal.
I think this is such a great conversation because this is inviting people to also tune into the subtle energetics of dynamics. Like, how do I feel around this person? How do I feel in this situation? Or is my body even closed up? It's both, but it's such a process to tune into that. I also love what you shared, Liv, about, ooh, I found that so interesting as you work with folks, noticing the patterns, like, oh, maybe just families in the inner circle or families in the outer circle. And then also what I heard you say, which I want to like repeat for everyone listening, is you said also looking at the patterns within. Right. So it doesn't mean, oh, if the relationship is out of alignment, or that mother example with the child doesn't mean, oh, if the child's out, something's wrong with the child. No, how can we also try to bring maybe the child in to that inner circle in a way that's more aligned to the values, to our values, to our goals, to our desires. And so it's giving ownership on both ends, which I love.
Yes, yes. And values work is a huge layer within alignment, within the alignment work that I do, because I really looking, once you have that understanding of your core values and what you believe, that's really your kind of operating system, right? It's a way to look at the whole picture of alignment of like, is this aligned to my values? And if it's not aligned to your values, it's a big sign to take a look at it. And with alignment, it's not like everything, like you said, it's not like if you're out of the circle or it doesn't feel right that it's like, oh, gotta go, boundaries, like walls up. It is an invitation to be like, why is it not in alignment? What role do I play in this? And what's serving me? You know, what's the best relationship or the best decision or whatever it might be to move forward? It's not always like go, 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 which a lot of times people think like alignment is connected to boundaries, and boundaries are like no to everybody. But it really is this invitation just to connect to your values and have your life be in it like an embodiment of those values.
Oof. This one is landing. Yes, I love this so much because if anything comes up for you too, I'd be curious. But like, I think of my own life, and when I was really working with reprogramming my attachment style, working with my own values and partnership, it was this process of like, am I embodying what I want? I want healthy communication. How do I communicate in my partnerships? Yeah, I desire depth of intimacy. Am I expressing what it is I want? Am I leading the direction of the intimacy in my relationships? And this was this huge shift for me of how do I actually change my way of being to also create that? So,
Yes, yes, definitely. And that makes me think of, even you can have you can have a specific value that then takes slightly different iterations and shapes over the years. So for example, one of my core values, before was always freedom. I was like, I want to be able to pick up and move. I want to go, like freedom in my 20s was like core value. That has shifted now in the recent years into flexibility, because I was a little bit less about freedom. I have to be free all the time and move anywhere I want, and into more of like, I want this flexible lifestyle. I want that's hence being an entrepreneur. Now in this era of like motherhood, I've adjusted it a little bit, even like further beyond that. And now it's spaciousness. I want space in my life. I want spaciousness in my mornings. I want spaciousness in like my, in my days, in my travel. And so having that, like really leaning into your values, but then that evolution of like let me get more and more clear about what it is that I'm actually looking to bring in. And then with that lens of like, if spaciousness is a core value of mine, the alignment is like, how do I bring it practically into my life, into my day, into my calendar, into like the decisions I make, and it all aligns to that core value.
Oh, this is so deep. I'm loving it so much. And it's even getting me to think about later. I will be simmering on how my values have evolved. And yeah, I love that angle so much. And I feel the work that you're doing, it's so much, it's alignment and so much more because it's truly like embodiment of everything that we believe in, you know? And in coming, yeah, it is. It's alignment. It's so deep. It's such a valuable area of expertise. One thing I want to touch on before we move on that came up for me earlier in the conversation was I think, and I'd be curious, what comes across in your work, but what comes for me, why many folks have a hard time coming into alignment is also fear of like, can I switch jobs? And how am I going to make this move and how to be okay with the mystery, with the unknown. And I'm curious what tools or tips you have for folks listening who want to come into greater alignment and maybe come up against fears when it comes to business, a transition, fears when it comes to a relationship transition, like anything that comes for you that you want to share for everyone listening.
Yeah. So when I started doing this work, what I noticed about everyone that was coming to me, and now it has become really a part of my niche, a part of my messaging, is everyone was in transition. That was the core thread. They were all ages, lived all over the world, all industries, all types of situations, but they were all identifying as like, I'm moving from this chapter to another chapter, and I'm in this like leap right in between of like, I'm taking the leap and almost like in that free fall. And then knowing that there's another phase on the other side. So I notice that with everyone that's coming to me is like, that's the key thing. And it is a really beautiful place to be like, I'm not sure what the next step is. I'm in this unknown, this space of like, I'm not sure where it's going to land, but I'm here for the journey. It's a beautiful and powerful, but also really terrifying place to be. But the great thing about coaching, which is part of why I'm always like, I have multiple coaches and people that I work with, is that coaching takes this big idea, right? This big goal and breaks it down into like what do I do next week, today, right now, right? And so really unpacking like the fear, is it the fear of like not having a paycheck? Is it a fear of what will people think? Is it a fear of I actually don't know what I want to do next? Like, and really drilling down, because underneath the fear are like 10 sub steps, right? Of like little things that you can do. And so I find that a lot of people that are scared to make a change in any area of their life, it typically will stem from the fear of like not knowing, what the outcome's going to be. But the good news is that there are steps that you can take, practical steps that you can take for every little fear that you have. You can go like 10 layers deeper, and to really uncover like, what is it really like underneath. So yeah, that's the great thing about coaching, is you can unpack it and figure it out.
I love this so much. This sounds so potent because, yes, it's taking this intangible and making it tangible. And you're really getting to the psyche here of the fear. Because, right, when people say just work through the fear, be okay in the unknown, it's like what people really crave, what I'm hearing you say, and it resonates for me as well as a human being. It's like, what are the actionable steps? What are just like the little steps I can do to work through each of these fears, little steps I can take to get me closer to the grand vision, and that it's
Yes.
possible with the right support, with the right tools.
Yes, and I will share that I remember, when I was going through my breakup with a, long-term relationship, I remember like very vividly, I was going to therapy at the time, and my therapist said, like, everything is basically all the logistics. It's never going to be the perfect time, right? You're never going to have nothing on the calendar. It's never going to be the perfect time to leave. So you need to decide, like, you can cancel flights, you can change, you can cancel your RSVP to the wedding, you can, give the tickets away, whatever it is. Like those like little decisions will keep people in certain situations, right? They'll be like, but I need this, but we planned this, but we did this. And so just kind of going back to like becoming the coach for yourself. Like the worst case scenario is you cancel the plane tickets, right? Just as an
Mm.
example. But really underneath that is like, I'm scared, I'm not sure, whatever it might be. So the actions will help get more clarity of like what's the real root of the feeling.
I love that. And I love that you're also everyone listening, remember what she said. Also think of the worst case scenario and use that also to help like back into it. This is amazing. Okay, I want to dive into you had this post I loved so much on Instagram and is all about, these 5 lessons that you learned in business in your 5 years in business. And we spoke about this, how it ties to these like 5 areas to also look at when it comes to living in alignment. And I want to dig into each one with you. And so your first one was really about focusing on the gold. And I would love for you to elaborate for us all, what this means, how you navigated, like really focusing on this goal, focusing on that zone of genius, and using that for all the folks listening, how they can embody that too.
Yes. So yeah, I hit 5 years this year, just in February, and it does feel like a milestone for a small business, especially starting a business, a couple of weeks before COVID and the lockdown, and like
Nice.
moving through so many seasons. And I will say that I had mentioned, oh, my life was so different, 5, 7 years ago, and even now, 5 years into business, I'm like, I'm a different person now than I was when I started. So even, these big lessons and shifts, and I'm finding that I'm in this chapter of even deeper alignment now. So now I get to practice everything I've been teaching people and put it all on myself. So
Mhm.
that first lesson that I had shared for this, what I've learned this past year, was really, for me, it's been all about like, how do I get super clear on what my offers are, what I'm putting out in the world, and really focusing on the gold. So what I did as an exercise with one of my coaches at the beginning of last year was writing down everything that I do, writing down all the events I host, all the programs I host, like just everything that I do. And then really simply, like practically writing down 1 to 10, how much does this light me up? And then from there, looking at how much impact does this have? And the impact part is a bit subjective, right? Because it could be related to how many people it reaches, but also could be like the transformations that I see. And so even just that exercise provided so much clarity of like, I have 25 things on this list, right? But 3 things are actually high impact and are things that actually light me up. And doing that exercise allowed me to see that like I could still like something, I can still like to do something, but maybe it's not really where my time needs to go. And a piece of alignment that I always look at is like that time piece, right? Am I spending my time? Am I doing what I say I want to do, right? If my main goal is this, does that actually line up with where I'm spending my time? So I coached myself in that exercise and was like, I need to focus on these 3 things, which for me are going to be, or are currently,
Yes.
coaching, my
Yes.
retreats, and my podcast. Those are my 3 high impact, light me up, 10 out of 10 areas. And it feels really in alignment.
I love this. I'm gonna do this exercise after this because it's such a good reminder for us all that our time is, I feel, and obviously you feel it, given this, our time is our most valuable resource. And so, how do we spend our time and energy and really choosing those things that are high impact that light us up? And yes, just invitation for everyone listening to really start to nail those down. Okay, let's go into the second one, potential over pain. Yeah. I would love for you to explain this. And you used it in the term of navigating containers with clients. And we can even like zoom it out bigger as well for everyone listening and how they can apply it to their life as well.
Yes, this has been a huge one. And it honestly has just changed the way I even look at how I bring people into my world, whether that's friends, whether that's, different relationships, whether that's clients, and I'll talk about it kind of in the aha moment that came for me more on the client side. But a big part of the mentors and coaches and people that I really feel connected to and learn from, what they're teaching is all around feminine business, feminine leadership. One of my mentors right now, Mel Wells, it's all about feminine energetics and feminine business. And one of the big things that she has shared in our containers is all around, noticing the type of language that you're using when you're sharing about the work that you do. And I was noticing that a lot of my programs was speaking towards people that might feel stuck, or people that might just speaking towards their pain, right? Like they're in a place where their habits aren't working, they're feeling stuck in their relationship, they're feeling like kind of leaning into like all the things that aren't working in their life. And I was noticing a lot of my messaging was around that. When I started to shift that into like, actually, I'm calling in the woman that is really making this decision from her higher self, that is excited to invest, that is excited to do this work, that's not coming from the like, I need this, save me, help me, you're going to be my guide, but like, ooh, let's do it, right? Like, I can't wait to just elevate into my next level. And I'm the kind of buyer that is like that. When I go into a program, I'm like, yes, I can't wait, like, let's do this, not coming from a place of I need this, like, please, like, save me type of energy. So when I started to shift that energy into like, actually, I'm going to speak towards all the potential. Like, what if it gets better? Like, if like not even gets better, but what if like we can go to the moon with this, right? And so just that shift and like, I'm going to speak towards that woman, I'm going to speak towards that client has really drastically changed like the type of women that are coming into my space, the energy that's coming in. And yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And so that just little shift in speaking towards potential is a key one of aligned clients for me.
I love this so much because given my work in the relationship space, my mind always goes there. And so even like expanding that out, it makes me think about in partnership, how do we also speak to that potential? So instead of like, you never do this, partner, it's like, I know you got amazing ideas in there. Like, why don't you plan the next date? And it's like, how do we hold them in their highest to also encourage that from them? And then what came
Yes.
for me as well, like with our friendships is, I had a piece of content recently of like, I want your resonance. I don't want your support. And so I used to go around thinking like, oh, I could never find women in my life, sisters in my life who can match and it comes from ego, but who could match my level of depth of consciousness. And I never found women because of that energy. And what I realized is like, if I'm holding my sisters up in their highest, and like, I'm not trying to be better, I'm not trying to coach them, but instead I have resonance and I see the mirrors that we are, then it's like, yes, they're elevated like me. And then I see me in that and vice versa. And so it's also like, as we relate with people, how do we see everyone's potential as these divine sources of wisdom that they are? And maybe if someone's like stuck in a lower frequency, like we can try to shift it, or, we have a boundary with that person, being conscious of the energy drainers, as you said. But it's like, how do we also remember that we can impact that aspect of the conversation?
Yes, definitely. And that's a huge indicator with relationships, is with especially with friendships, or just when you have social engagements, like which relationships do you leave, or like which social engagements do you leave and you feel energized, right? And you don't feel like completely drained. And like typically it's those relationships that you feel inspired, that there's a balance of talk, of communication. They're asking you questions, you're asking them questions, like you're leaving and you feel lit up because there's that elevation of conversation, right? There's that elevation of depth, and that really does come with like, let's talk about the potential versus being stuck in like talking about how we all hate work, whatever it might be. It's
Yes.
elevating the conversation as well.
I love that. Elevating the conversation. Yes, please. Okay, let's go into number three. Number three is around filling your own cup. And I feel like this will apply for everyone listening because it's such an important area. So I would love for you to expand on, what does that mean? How do we do that? What are the impacts of that?
Yes, this is like foundational, even pre any goals, pre any alignment work. It's like one of the biggest, focuses I have is I have to walk the walk, right? And this is not just for my business, but for being a mother, for being, for supporting everyone in my life. none of it gets done if I'm burnt out. None of it gets done. None of the impact work gets done if I am not taking care of myself. So for me, like a huge part of every decision I make, everything that comes back to my alignment is filling my own cup first. And that looks like going back to basics, right? It's like hydrating, having nourishing food, like moving my body regularly. But it also looks like, how do I invest in myself? How do I continue my growth? You know, right now I'm in a mastermind, I have a therapist, I have a personal trainer, and that's how I choose to spend my time and my resources. It's like I'm filling my cup up, and the ripple effects are insane. Like when I have more, the more that I give into myself, more I pour into myself, everyone else is supported. I have better client relationships. I'm able to hold more. My capacity expands as a friend, as a wife. And so that to me, it's like the well that keeps getting refilled. And as an entrepreneur, that really has looked for me as like looking at different ways I can invest in my own learning and development and just my own personal growth. It's just like a whole world. Before I became a coach, I didn't know what the coaching world was, but you can have a coach for anything, right? You can have a money coach, a relationship coach, like a somatic coach, a breathwork coach. And so I love hiring other people to elevate me and to sort of upgrade what I'm doing. And so that's been a huge part. Now I always think of like, oh, what do I get to do next, right? Like, where do I get to, what part of my life do I get to look at next? So it's a fun process.
I love this so much, Liv. This is so inspiring. And I know we met through Shoshana Raven. We're both in her world. I'm in her mastermind vortex. And I didn't know you're working with Mel Wells, but I love that. She's incredible. And so I love this energy of continuous growth, investing in self, up leveling self, and how that ripples out into every area of our life. And it really is, because when we become our best selves, we feel empowered, we feel amazing. And at the end of the day, like, no one is here to validate us, fix us, save us, make us whole. And that's really all that we can do, is like deep self empowerment through, as you said, there's a coach for everything. And how do we just strengthen our core so much so that we thrive?
Yes.
Yes. Talk to me about number 4, staying in your zone. Yeah. And how this applied for you in entrepreneurship, for the fellow entrepreneurs listening.
This comes up in so many areas, and I would say that when I think of staying in my zone of genius, it's really looking at what are the things that I do best that like give me energy, but that also, you know, are areas in my business, areas in my life that I really want to stay super connected to. And my work, like a theme that's come up for me as becoming an entrepreneur, is like I tend to go towards hyper independence of like I can do it all, and I want my hands in everything, and I want to, you know, see everything. So for me, a big part of my work has been like, how do I delegate? How do I trust and receive support? How do I hand things off and not have to be the one, you know, in control or in charge? And I'm continuing to work on this every day, but a big piece of this has been that realization of like scaling my business, growing my business. I can't be doing the website and the bookkeeping and the social media and taking client calls and the scheduling. Like, it just doesn't work like that. And so a big thing that I've been working on this year, even just in 2025, has been, how do I receive more? How do I really be in the feminine in my business? And part of that is like calling in the support, being open to receive, like really being in that energy of like, I'm also a manifestor in human design. So I feel like as a manifestor, it's like holding the vision and really focusing on like the bigger picture rather than being kind of like in all the weeds of everything. And so for me, I'm working this year on like, how do I let go of things, hire support? Like, I got a bookkeeper, I got someone working on my brand, like I've, you know, got an assistant that's helping me. And so how do I like really create a team around me? And it is trial and error, you know. It's like, so you find some people that really well, and there's gonna be some people that maybe don't work well for you. And that is a whole alignment conversation in itself, right? How do you align your team and your people to your values and your business and your working style? And so, yeah, staying in like, these are my areas of expertise. I constantly come back to that as like a goalpost.
I love that so much. It's such a good reminder. And it's still also, for me, in some ways, ties to this idea of like managing the energy and time. Because yeah, I think about that with my like staying in my zone of genius and how many of the like little day-to-day things I'm still doing when really like creation, that's the genius. And how do I keep talking about the themes that I love, that light me up, that I'm good at, instead of diluting with so many other areas, yeah, that I also enjoy
Yeah.
talking about. And so how do we be intentional with what we're creating and how? Talk to me, okay, as we close these five out, talk to me about evolution is part of the process.
Mm.
And
Yes, this is a good kind of one to round out because it does relate to the first one of like that list that I mentioned of like the 25 things that are on there.
Mm,
It's hard to let things go. It's hard to let things go. It's in life in general, but especially when it's like something that, you know, as you're starting a business and you put all these offers out or you put these things out, events out or retreats out, whatever it might be. Part of the what something that I've held on to is this feeling of like because I've done it, that means I have to keep doing it, right? Because at one point I had a membership, I have to have the membership forever. Because I did my coaching program like that, I have to do it like that forever. So me for a big lesson for me has been like it's okay to let things go, right? And it's also part of the process to like evolve what you do into something different. If I was to do the same set of offers as I did in 2020, in 2025, like it would be boring for everyone. It would be boring for the for the client, it would be boring for me, but part of this process of like some things have got to go, even some big things. Like I'm in the process right now of deciding whether a big part of my business that I've been doing for the past couple years, whether I do it again next year or not, like this piece of it. And I'm in this decision, I'm in this evolution process of like, I feel like I've outgrown it. I feel like my energy and time could be spent elsewhere. Like I'm in that alignment, like stickiness. And a big piece of it is looking at how does it feel in my body? And also looking at, even though I like it, it doesn't mean that it has to keep going, right? It doesn't mean like I can love an event or I can love a program, but it doesn't mean that it has to continue on like next year or the next round. Like it can take a different shape. And so I've had to really sit with this one. I'm currently like in a big evolution process, but I'm trying to also shift the energy into like rather than like letting go, okay, like kind of a grief related to it, I'm kind of shifting it into like this is the butterfly, right? This is the metamorphosis process, and this is like what if it gets to be actually like an even more exciting offer, an even more exciting event or retreat, or what if it opens the door to something I don't even know that's on my path yet. So yeah, it's a stickiness, and it exists in everything, right? This that free fall moment I said of like moving from one chapter to the other. And I'm always now when I feel this, I'm grateful because I'm like, this is the work, right? This is what I teach. This is what I coach. And so for me to experience it myself, I'm like, okay, hold the space, right? Hold the container for it.
yes. And this is also like giving permission and invigorating joy in me and hopefully all of you listening as well, of like be happy, enjoy the process, play with the process, like that butterfly effect. Play, the unknown is there, and how do I just sit with it and hold it and be with it and allow myself to grow and evolve as we all do. And it's permission to change our mind, to
Mhm.
play, to experiment, to not have to have that perfect linear path that we might feel we need to get to where we want to get to.
Yes. I will say one thing also with alignment is that a lot of people think that it's like going the line is always up, 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 right? It's like I'm all the ripple effect is up, 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 but there is a cycle, right? The cycle of death and rebirth, right? Death and rebirth happens. Cycles happen in our life in a million different ways. And so it's also important to know that like a part of your path of alignment is getting into alignment, feeling that, but we're going to go through other cycles, right? Other seasons, other chapters. And each time we do that and we get comfortable with that, like, oh, okay, we're going into like a death cycle and into a rebirth cycle, we can hold ourselves with more grace, and we can give ourselves more space, and it gets to be like a really beautiful like shedding process rather than like oh no, what's happening in my life. It's like welcoming the change.
I love that because it's just, it's, yeah, it's such a good reminder of maybe something was in alignment yesterday, last week, last month, and like maybe now it's not. And that's okay, and then how do
Mm-hmm.
we also like allow that death and rebirth? So I always love to just ask people this on the podcast. I would be curious to hear, Liv, how does this tie for you to this theme of alignment in life? How does this tie to divine union? So when you think of inner union with self, sacred union in relationship, oneness with the cosmos, and all that is what this whole podcast is about, how for you does alignment tie into that? Just
Oh,
some
it is
fun
so connected. It is
questions.
so connected. That's a big question. But the initial thing that comes to mind for me is like when I think of alignment, it really is this homecoming back to yourself, right? It's turning the attention inwards, going back to your heart space, really listening. It's like that deep inner listening and creating space for yourself to actually listen. A lot of the work that I do outside of coaching is related to yoga and sound healing and just connecting back to the body. And so when we're able to connect what's happening up here in the mind, right, with what's happening in the body and what's happening in the breath, like it is a whole divine union. And when I feel like when you are in alignment, you feel that channel opening in your body, right? You have more creativity, like things are being birthed from you as a result of that homecoming. So, yeah, when I think of divine union, I definitely think of coming home to yourself and finding that alignment within.
Oh, so beautifully said. Thank you, Liv. So, where can everyone who's listening, who's like, this, I'm digging this conversation, I'm curious about getting deeper into the alignment work, where can they find out more about you and the work that you do?
Yes, they can come on Instagram. On Instagram, it's Ina Wellness Collective. Ina spelled INA. Yeah, I have different coaching programs, retreats. I have a podcast called Illuminated Path, which you'll be on, and so you'll be able to listen to our joint episode on my podcast too. But yeah, Instagram is mainly where I hang out. I have different programs virtually, so you can join from anywhere in the world. And if you ever find yourself on Guam in the middle of the Pacific, you can come take a yoga class with me. But yeah, I love the expanding international community for wellness. So yeah, they can find me on Instagram.
Oh, this is amazing. And I will be sure to put all your information in the show notes as well. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Liv, for joining me today. Thank you,
Thank you.
beautiful people, for tuning in to this week's episode of Divine Union Podcast. It's been such a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, may all your unions be divine.